What is going on, guys? Jesse here, and welcome to the review of the Pixel 6 Pro. So first of all, this is arguably one of the most hyped phone releases of the year, so being able to get this in hand a little early and check it out is awesome. The Pixel brand has always kind of held this mantra of having mid-range hardware, but makes up for it in the software. And even despite having that mid-range hardware, there's almost a cult-like following with the Pixel series, although still not mainstream by any stretch of the imagination. Despite the size of Google as a company, they've only managed to hold on to about 2% of the smartphone market. But now, maybe with the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, Google can finally start to move a few more units, because this is the first time that Google has made a phone that has truly flagship specs and hardware. And the idea is that if they can do as well as they have with mid-range hardware, imagine what they can do without those handicaps. So clearly expectations are high. But before we get into that, let's hear a word from our sponsors. This video is brought to you by Western Rise. Their pants are versatile, comfortable, and high performance. They don't wrinkle, smell, or stain, and they stretch in every direction. They have seriously changed how I dress, and they are honestly the only pair of pants you'll ever need. And most people are still using pants that were designed in the 90s. Cotton jeans and chinos that wear out, rip, don't stretch, and aren't built to move. We all know how rapidly tech changes, and it's time that our clothes did too. These are water and stain resistant, have a pocket in the front for your phone, a hidden zip pocket in the back for your wallet, and the material is so durable that they come with a lifetime warranty. In fact, the team at Western Rise is so confident that you'll love these pants that they'll even let you test drive these for 7 days totally risk-free. You can try out multiple different sizes and colors, and they'll only charge you if you keep them. And if all of that still doesn't convince you, you can check out their over 5,000 5-star reviews. So if that sounds like something you'd be into, they hooked me up with a special discount code just for you guys, so you can get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and free returns by going to westernrise.com/Jesse and use code Jesse. Link in the description. Now first off, the design is definitely unique and doesn't really resemble anything else on the market. Personally, I'm a pretty big fan, but you can decide for yourself whether or not you like the look. I've got it here in the sorta sunny colorway, and I like it. It's sort of a muted yellow with a slightly different shade on the top of the device, and it just feels very uniquely Pixel. The whole device is also a lot bigger than any Pixel before, with a 6.7-inch 1440 by 3120 120Hz screen, which is a PPI of 512 for those of you who are into that. And it has Gorilla Glass Victus on the front and back for that extra durability. I'm just a little bit disappointed that they didn't go for the matte glass on the back, because I just love it when phone makers do that. It rejects fingerprints a lot better, and it just looks really nice in my opinion. But for most of you guys, you're gonna be using this with a case anyway, so it doesn't really affect you either way. But of course, the biggest design feature of this year's Pixels has to be this new camera visor that stretches across the entire width of the device. It's pretty cool in my opinion, because I just like the way it looks, and it also means that it doesn't rock on a table like most phones do nowadays. And it just kind of provides a nice place to rest your finger while holding the phone. But I did find it kind of gets in the way if you're holding the phone landscape, and it is also just the perfect place for dust and gunk to accumulate, so make sure you clean it pretty regularly. And last little hardware quirk that I found was with the buttons. So both are on the right side, and they don't have the contrasting one anymore, which I am a little bit disappointed in, but the volume buttons are at the bottom now, which is pretty much opposite of every other phone out there, which is interesting. Doesn't really make that big of a difference, just something I noticed. Now, a bigger update for this phone than that new visor though has to be the new Tensor SoC, which is the first chip that's made by Google themselves in a Pixel device. Now, I usually don't care about specs at all because phones have just gotten so good nowadays, you're probably not going to notice the difference between a high-end chip and one that's more mid-range. So of course, using the phone, everything feels super snappy, no lagging pretty much anywhere, and with the 12 gigs of RAM, you can keep a bunch of apps open at the same time as well. But I mean, that's also true for pretty much every flagship smartphone out there nowadays. But this one is a little bit different because it's been able to unlock a lot of AI features that have really never been seen before. The one I think I'm most excited about though has to be the live translate, which you have been able to do in the past, but now the phone does all of that processing on device instead of sending it to the server. So you can still have this feature when you don't have a connection. There's also a feature called live caption with video you watch on your phone as well. So you'll be able to watch things in any language that Google supports, which will open a whole new world of content for you to consume. I tried it out and it seems to be not quite the best yet. Like, it has trouble making sense a lot of the time, but I think they really are onto something here. And that brings me to the next thing that Tensor has helped Google with, the cameras. But before we talk about that, if you're enjoying the content so far, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below. It really does help a lot. So hardware wise, we've got a brand new triple camera system on the back with a 50 megapixel f1.9 wide, 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide, and a 48 megapixel f3.5 4x periscope telephoto lens. And on the front, the ultra wide selfie camera is making a comeback, which is great for fitting in larger groups. And thanks to Tensor's newer and better image processing, which Pixels have already been known for, the photo and video quality does not disappoint. I found it to be a lot more contrasty than other phones I've tested, and it doesn't aggressively try to lift up the shadows like a lot of other phone cameras do. One of the things that I found was pretty cool though is that if you tap on the viewfinder, these sliders show up that let you adjust the temperature, highlights, and shadows. Super cool, and I don't think I've seen any other camera app that has this type of adjustment so readily available, and I think it's a really great touch. Now on to video quality, they've done a lot of improvement here. So part of the problem before was since Pixel cameras had been so processing reliant in the past, video was extremely difficult to get right just because it took a lot of processing power. But now with the better hardware and Tensor, they seem to have been able to do a lot better. But I think the things I was more excited to try out was all of the new AI features, like Magic Eraser, which kind of works like content aware fill in Photoshop if you're familiar, but it seems that as of this review, the feature isn't quite ready yet because it just wasn't there for me. They've also done a lot of work to make this camera more inclusive as well. In the past, people with darker skin have found it more difficult to get proper exposure because cameras just see them as shadows and tries to brighten them up when in reality, they are just darker. Now, obviously, this isn't something that I personally have to deal with, but I can imagine just how frustrating that must be. And it's really great to see them trying to do something about that. Anyways, this will also be shipping with the latest version of Android, which has gone under a whole new redesign called Material U, which personally I really like the look of. But the really impressive thing is what they've done with color on this. Whatever your wallpaper is, it'll actually be able to calculate what the primary and secondary colors are and come up with a color palette for the rest of the UI, which I think is insane. And honestly, it just does a lot to make the whole experience of using the phone feel really put together. And overall, I'm just a really big fan of Material U. Everything from the fonts that they use to the way that a little stretch happens every time you reach the end of a scrolling menu or something like that. And that's system-wide as well, so menus in all your apps will behave like that as well, which I think is super neat. So that, combined with a new screen, just makes using this every day a pleasure. It gets plenty bright even for use outdoors, colors look great, and with the 120Hz refresh rate, everything just feels super snappy and smooth. So watching videos and playing games all feel great, but I think the speakers on this phone could definitely use some work. They just don't really get that loud and the sound quality is passable at best. Voice typing has also gotten an update as well, so if your hands are full, you can still pretty easily send messages but with more accuracy than ever. And now, if you make a mistake, the suggestions for correction will be based on phonetics rather than the same ones that you use when you're typing, which I think just makes more sense. And there's also a new optical fingerprint sensor under the display which seems to work pretty well but is just a bit slow. I kind of wish that they had some sort of face recognition though, just for some redundancy. Although as far as accuracy goes though, I think it's better than the ultrasonic ones that Samsung is using in their phones right now. I just have a lot less failed attempts. Battery life is also pretty good as well. It's got a 5000 milliamp hour cell in there, and yeah, it's good, but not great. I can pretty comfortably get through a full day of use on a charge, which is pretty much the threshold of good battery for me, but if you really go hard at it with a bunch of GPSing, gaming, and that sort of thing, you can definitely kill this in a day. But at the end of the day, is this phone worth getting? This is Google's first attempt at a truly flagship device, and I gotta say, I like it. I like it a lot. Like, everything from the stellar camera performance just to the way the device looks and feels is pretty great, and I don't think you would be disappointed if you picked one of these up. Especially now with Tensor, since it's Google's own chip, they have guaranteed 5 years of security updates and 3 years of software updates, which is really nice and should make this a nice phone even years from now. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Remember to smash that like button, and if you enjoy content like this, think about subscribing and hitting the bell so you don't miss anything. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!